All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy. I'll be the moderator today. First up, we have Patricia James. Pat is a community college instructional administrator for the last 8 years and has taught online for the last 7 years before becoming dean. She was the lead designer and project coordinator for this course. So Pat.
Hi. It's going to be hard for me to stand still. I don't do that very well. So I'm glad you guys can all hear me just fine and there's not a problem. Okay, great. I retired, you can tell, because I'm not working anymore. That's the biggest lie I'll probably tell you all morning. I did retire. I am still working. I'm still the project coordinator for this course and will remain so until somebody decides to step up and learn it and do it. And so I'm hoping that somebody does that in the next year or so. But what we've done, I'm from Mount San Jacinto College, which is in Southern California, in San Jacinto and Menifee, roughly between Riverside and San Diego, around that area. And we're a medium-sized community college, getting bigger by the second. And I'll tell you a little bit about how this all happened. My plan for the hour that we're going to spend together is to have a conversation with you. So I would like it if you just ask questions when they come up. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just talk to me. I'd rather have more of a conversation. I've never had a problem being able to talk. So I can go on without stopping. So you need to, jump in there when you need to jump in. What you're seeing on this slide, the slides here are located at the first link, and then there's a handout, and it's right here at the front, and I think I have enough for everybody. If you want to grab one at some point, you don't need it for what I'm going through, but it's got a lot of links on it, and the first link is the link to the handout, so that you can actually use the links within the handout, not have to type them all in. So I just wanted you to know that those things were there. We did a course, a MOOC, that we built at the end of 2012, and we offered it twice in 2013, and we're just finishing our third offering of this course. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you about. It's called Crafting an Effective Writer. The reason we called it that was it was going to be part one of a two-part series, and Cerritos College was going to do the second part, but they didn't get funded, so they didn't. We would have named it something else, and we're finding that the name is a little bit of a problem. I'll tell you why as we go forward, but it really doesn't describe what the course is about. And so we're probably going to change the name in June when we offer it again. One of the lessons we learned is pick a good name that really says what it is when you're going out there on the world stage, which was also we knew we were doing it, but it was still kind of a shock. And I'll tell you a little more about that too. So my plan is to talk to you about the story about how this all happened, give you some background in how we managed to get ourselves into this very large pool that we're swimming in. Actually, we're paddling in it and just keeping our head above water. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that, how we got funded, what it means. I'll show you the class. I have a lot of data, which I don't like data very much. I'm a psychologist, but I don't like the data part of it. My background is in multimedia production, particularly interactive media. And I mean, that's my love. So it's all about people, and counting them was hard for me. So we hired somebody else to do that, which was great. And so we do have some data. We're still doing a lot of analysis. And so I'm expecting that probably at the end of summer, we'll have a really clear idea of what happened and why, to some degree. The why is just really crazy and out there with so many variables that it's really hard to pick out why. And so the first thing we had to do was develop some kind of category for where things fit in and how we were going to look at the data. You couldn't just say, this is about success and retention, because if you did that, you'd be insane and very quickly. So we'll talk about that, and I'll talk about that too. And then I want to show you the platform, if you're interested. and I think you might be interested in seeing the Coursera platform and what it was to be a developer in this situation and what it means to be involved technically with something like this. Because for you guys, I think that's an important piece. So are there specific things that you want to know about this type of a course right now off the bat? If you can just tell me what those are, then I'll make sure that I cover them or give you plenty of time to get that question answered. So is there a specific thing that you want to know?
Major impediments affecting faculty for developing MOOCs.
Okay, and I think that's going to come out. but yeah, you know, the faculty issues, like what kind of problems they had with developing. Okay, what else? I'm going to make you talk. It's too small a group to just try to, you know, yak at you. So what else? Anything else that interests you about this?
I'm always interested in completion rates. Having started about 40 of them and finished one.
Right. Me too. That doesn't mean I didn't get anything out of it, but and it doesn't mean I wanted to finish it when I started. So, you know, completion is a really, you know, hot button issue, and particularly with these classes. And I'll show you that, then we'll have a real conversation about what you think about that. Yeah. What else? Anything else? Don't want to know anything else? Well, that's 5 minutes right there we can do. Hopefully you'll come up with other questions and you'll jump in there.
Well, I guess one just administration of the platform itself and how you handle that, or had other people handle that, but just the logistics.
You know, it's not as hard as you might think. And a lot of it gets pushed off onto Coursera, which is great. And we had an interesting thing happen. I'll just tell you this because I know I haven't talked about it much. I might forget it otherwise. But we had a gentleman who was a Peace Corps volunteer, and he was in Mongolia. Okay. And he had 100 students in Mongolia in a study group taking this class, which was kind of overwhelming to us to begin with, right? And he, as a Peace Corps volunteer, did not understand weighted grades. And so he had a bit of a problem with the way we were doing points. And no matter what we told him, he didn't get it. So all his students got it. They said, "We get it. It's okay. You don't have to keep talking to them about this." So what he did was he called the ACCJC, okay? And I got a call from them, and I got a call from Jack Pond. I don't know if any of you know Jack, who's a great guy, you know, really great guy. I'm glad, and I know him, so it was really nice to get, you know, my administrator, my vice president said Jack Pond is wanting you to call him back about the MOOC, and I went, okay. And so this guy had complained about our grading system. And Jack wanted to know how the college was dealing with complaints. In that class, there were 47,000 students enrolled in that class. So our college was not dealing with complaints. Okay. Coursera deals with the complaints, and it's actually a Coursera course. We run it, but it's a Coursera course. So I was able to tell him, first of all, it is not for credit. It's a resource, okay? Secondly, nobody would want credit for it anywhere, you know, and it doesn't fit into any degree, it's a resource, that's it. So he was okay with that, and then he understood that Coursera was dealing with the complaints and that we really didn't have to. So administratively, that was probably the scariest moment for me was, you know, I hadn't really thought about what our accreditors were going to do because this wasn't that kind of a situation, but it became one. So it was pretty interesting, and he was fine with it. You know, he understood what we were talking about, but that's something that you have to, you know, we're going to have to work out in the scheme of things in higher ed is how do we handle that kind of issue going forward? So I'll talk a little more about it too, but there. Anything else you guys are interested in? This is the team. And I show you this. You're going to see a little video of all of us in a minute or two. But this is the team that put it together. Now, some of the universities, I don't know how many of you from universities and how many of you from community colleges, but the universities that are involved in this have resources. We don't. We don't have a big technical backup group. We don't have researchers. We don't have instructional designers. I'm it. And then we have 2 part-time faculty who help us out. That's all we've got. So for us, this is our team. This was the team that built it. This is the team that ran it, that runs it now. And it consists of myself as the administrator and lead designer, and I've got tons of background in distance ed, and I've been doing this for a really long time. I'm very comfortable with it, and I have a degree in instructional design for online learning. I'm set for this. And then there's 2 instructional designers, Corinne down here in the corner, who really quickly I realized that I couldn't manage this project and work with it too and do all my other stuff as well. So I needed a project manager, and Corinne became our project manager, and I would not do something like this without a project manager. So the staff you would need is you need someone who is a proven technology project manager, particularly in distance ed or e-learning, that has that kind of background. You need that person, and that person has to be someone who can yell at people in a nice way, be encouraging, like get your work done, and get it done by this date. This was a team project, which for us, we don't usually design courses as teams. And I don't know where you are, if that happens, or if you even know whether a course at your institution is designed by a group or by one person. But generally for us, it's designed by the teacher. We try to give them support where we can, but don't always have it. So this was the first time we really had designed a course as a team. And what was so amazing about that was that the teachers, the instructors, and they're the gentleman in the blue shirt, that's Larry Barkley. The one in the brown shirt is Ted Blake. And right behind them with the blonde hair is Lori Ross. And those were the primary instructors involved. Lori has taught online for a really, really long time. Ted has gone through all of the training and all of the work to teach online, but never has. He is our Learning Center coordinator. And then Larry has been an English teacher forever, was going to retire, and after this decided not to. He's incredibly energized by this whole thing and very excited. And that's probably about as excited as he ever gets, as what you're seeing right there. Okay. And so the 3 of them had to design the content for the course. Now, they've all taught basic skills classes. This is a basic skills class. This is the foundational level of writing. This is language usage and parts of speech, which, to me suggests watching paint dry. It does. It's like, really, we're going to try to make this exciting. And I don't know where you are or how you sit with this, but we find that our students take placement tests without any preparation, literally. And the preparation in high school may not be the preparation they need. Because really they had that real foundational stuff. Well, when did you have it? When in school did you learn parts of speech and language usage? When were you diagramming sentences and calling those parts something? How old? You don't even remember, huh? How? 3rd grade, 5th grade, a little bit in 8th grade. And now I don't even know because standards are wacko, and oh gosh, she's calling the Common Core wacko. That's probably not good. Anyway, probably not good. But that was when our students really had this kind of stuff. After that, when they get into high school, they're taught to write based on literature, and now they're doing some expository writing, but generally they haven't had that in a long time. Are there any English teachers here? Or anybody? Yay, okay. You can ask English teacher questions. There are lots of them. I can answer most of them, actually. I've learned. My writing is better. It's just amazing. One of our students said, you've given us a virus. It's called the grammar flu, and we all have it. And it's true, and so everything I wrote in response to any questions from students or anything, everything I wrote from the time we went through this class had to be put through the filter of this class. And so if I didn't know if it was written correctly, I'd write it differently. I really thought about all of my writing. So when you look at that and you have your students that are now taking a placement test and they have to name the parts of speech, they have to name what an adverbial phrase, they have to call it out, they have to know what, they might remember subject and verb, I would hope so, but beyond that, they have a hard time, and the placement tests they ask for that information. So our students don't place necessarily where they belong. And so we have a real problem with students not placing into college level English, but needing a refresher in order to do that, and not taking it because they think they can. So they go into the placement test, I got this, I can do this, it's no problem. They do it with math too, no problem. And then they fail miserably. And they end up in developmental classes that cost them more money and take more time. Okay, so that's where, and then if you have the economic downturn we have had, that is the perfect storm. And that's what got us into this, was that storm. Okay, so now we have these students, they have to get into basic skills courses, and we don't have enough of them because we've cut classes, and we're talking about the transfer degrees, and so if you're talking to a department chair, you got to cut classes, you got to do transfer degrees, they're going to cut the basic skills classes. So we had no place for these students to go. So that's kind of the overarching window that we found ourselves in. And so we were hoping that what would happen was that the students would use this as a way to refresh and then take the placement test, and I'll tell you more about that. Anyhow, so language usage and parts of speech, and trying to get students out of this developmental cycle and into college level. And these three people, and then Evelyn Menz down there in the corner is the other tutoring center coordinator, and she was responsible for all of our peer tutors, which I'll talk about a bit. But anyway, those three people designed this class with the thought in mind of what do students need. They were outside of the unit box. They weren't looking at, I have to design a 3-unit class. I have to go through the curriculum committee. Okay, they didn't have to do that. So they were in a different space. They were in a real fresh place about how do I design this class and what do I put in it? And they were looking at what do students need? Okay, not how do I fill this 3-unit box. We were talking about that 3-unit box. The idea of the Carnegie unit was developed for compensation of faculty. The idea of the units were developed for how do we compensate faculty. So this was a real freeing experience for them. They loved it. They had a great time putting together this idea of, this place for people to improve and to save them time and to save them money. So that was it. The two guys on the side with the beards are the videographers. They are part-time video production instructors in the multimedia department at our college, and they were very excited about doing this. And then the girl in the middle is one of the, that's Anna Sterling. Some of you may know Anna. She's part of the @ONE group, but she's also a part-time instructor for us and a really good instructional designer. And she was really the technical person. She was really the one that was going in and doing all of the uploading of things and making sure that everything worked. And she and I pretty much did that with Corinne backing us up. So the three of us, Anna, Corinne, and I, were really technical support. We have the two videographers and then the three instructors and one English. She happens to be, Evelyn down there happens to be an English instructor, Learning Center coordinator, and peer tutor coordinator. So that's who we had. That was it. Okay, we had nobody else, nothing else. That was it. So how did it happen? I was asked to go to a meeting that didn't exist, still doesn't, by the way, exist, with the governor's financial people and the chancellor's office. I thought I was going to meet the governor. They said the governor's coming. So I said, I'll go. I want to meet the governor. I didn't get to meet the governor, of course. It was first disappointment. It was a discussion with his financial people about could we offer access to these courses for credit to the students in California. Remember where we were a year ago. And could we use third-party courses and these MOOCs to help us meet the access needs for our students. A MOOC is a massive open online class. You probably know that. What we decided in that room that day was no, we couldn't. And the reason we couldn't, the big reason was most of them were for people who could already learn, people who already knew how to write, people who had degrees. Okay, they were all done by elite universities, Duke, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Ohio State, University of Michigan. And by the way, I found myself very quickly in conversations with those people, e-conferencing with 4 top universities across the nation about sequencing English classes. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. And Ted and I were on telephone calls with them, and Ted's looking at me, he's going, Duke, we're talking to Duke. And I'm going, yeah, I know, we're talking to Duke. And, you know, they had writing courses as well. And what happened was I left that meeting knowing that we couldn't use these classes because of that. But also, they weren't giving credit then. They didn't know how to tell who the student was. You know, you can sign up with any name you want and as many times as you want. You have to be we have to be kind of careful about that. There were so many unanswered questions that we couldn't use it. But because of where we were, I went back and said to Ted and Larry and Lori, let's build one of these things for our students, leave it completely open to anyone who wants to do it in our community and for our students. And let's do that beginning writing piece. And they were right on board. So we were trying to figure out how to do it. In the meantime, Barry Russell at the Chancellor's office called me and said, I want you to talk to Daphne Kohler at Coursera. So I called her, and she got on the phone with me, and I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine on my phone with Daphne at Coursera for 2 hours. And we talked about what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. And she said, you know, we really don't have any courses like that. We really are trying to just provide the best lecturers, putting lectures online by the best lecturers and out there for the world. I said, I got good lecturers. We have good courses. Our students need that too. And she agreed. After we talked for quite a while, and we had similar philosophies, and no matter what you hear, try not to equate sustainability with greed, because they're very different things. And once this all got started enrolling, and it happened really, really fast, and I don't know how she's managed. I saw her about a month ago and had a conversation with her over tea. Matter of fact, in the kitchen at the Coursera office, leaning against the counter, having a conversation person to person. And she is tired. You know, she looks tired. She said, this has just been a wild and crazy ride. And she's always defending. And I think it's really sad, because really what she wanted to do, they had a password. They're not using it anymore, so I can tell it to you. They had a password for looking at the courses that was called Teach the World. The password was Teach the World. You know, that's where they started with this. And now they're doing a lot of other things. It's taken on a life of its own. But that's where they started with this. So why not? I mean, why not teach the world? Why not teach our little world at least? And so she was in for that. We started our course, and that map that you're seeing, that's where our students came from. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you've seen that commercial about the company that's starting their business, and they're sitting in front of the computer, and they start getting orders, and all of a sudden they get more orders than they can handle, and they freak out because they're seeing them all come in. That's how we felt. We were watching this map just totally fill up, and it was happening very fast, and it was way more than we expected, and it was scary and exciting and wild, and we were kind of hooked in the MOOC for a while. We had to tell Lori one day, just put the MOOC down and walk away, because we couldn't pry her away from the computer because she was so into what was going on. So my conversation with Daphne turned into a conversation with the Gates Foundation. And they had a grant opportunity at that time for developmental courses, beginning courses. So I applied for the grant. I had 10 days turnaround time to write the grant, do a video, and get all that stuff signed off and sent in. And we got it. which was another kind of mind blower. I was like, wow, little old Mount Santa Cena College in Santa Cena, where most of you don't know where that is, got $50,000 from the Gates Foundation. Working with Coursera. Coursera got no money. We got all of that money. It cost about $65,000 to build. That's probably not an accurate accounting of how much it would cost. We just distributed the $50,000. And then my time, we figured about $15,000. That's low in kind for me because I didn't get paid. The teachers got paid. The videographers got the bulk of the money. Okay. Plus, then we had to pay RP Group to do the data analysis. So those were our major expenses. And probably you could do it for half that and do it well. All right. The videography is going to be your biggest expense. These courses are based, they're lecture video based, which is not really what we do. But that's what the idea here. So when you look at the platform, you're going to see that it's very lecture video based. Okay, and the whole thing is kind of around these lecture videos. Okay. We had 7 peer writing tutors in the course when it opened. We asked them, how many people do we need in the discussion forums? And they said, 4 or 5. We're thinking, it doesn't sound good. So we had 14 of us. There were the 7 of us, and then there were 7 peer writing tutors. And that worked pretty well. And I'll show you why when we look at the platform. And when I put this together, we still had only 2 sessions. And the 2 sessions, session 2 had 5 faculty and staff, 2 peer writing tutors, and then they had 10 community TAs. Coursera has a program where if you've taken the class and you've passed it or you've done really well in it and you want to be a TA for the next session, they have a whole program that sets that up for you. So we have a bunch of retired teachers all over the world who are involved in being TAs in our course, and they're amazing. One of them, this gentleman, Derek Grange, is in Australia, and he has this amazing technical background and was a teacher, an English teacher. And so he knows more about, like he can tell when a student is coming in what browser they're using. I don't know where to find that out. He knows. And so he answers their questions based on that and then can answer the English question too. And he's right in there and he's retired and he's sitting around, doesn't have anything to do. This is what he does. And he's amazing. And we have about 21 of those. So now we have our own little group, 2 peer writing tutors that we pay, 5 faculty and staff that we pay, and all these peer tutors, TAs, community TAs. It's just really an amazing thing. The first session, we had 45,000 enrolled. And actually, these numbers are the same for the first and the second session. I had to go in and look and see if they were the same students. Are these the same students? Because the numbers were very similar. So 45,000 enrolled, about 30,000 actively participating. We have people that enroll that never do anything. They don't even log back in again. They just enroll in the class. They think they want to take it. 11,000, a little over 11,000 completed our surveys that we had in the course. 8,000 accessed the final week of content, which you had to do in order to pass. 3,700 attempted the final quiz, and 2,700 earned a certificate of completion. So the completion rate for this is 11%. How many of you would be happy about a course that had a completion rate of 11%? How long would it take you to teach 2,700 students something? If you're a teacher, think about how many classes you would have to teach to get 2,700 students. So when you think about completion, it's not the same. Okay? And it's not the same for a whole bunch of reasons. The second numbers were almost identical. I think we had 2,600 completion. The numbers that we have right now are we had 26,000 in this one. Okay, so it's dropped down a little bit. We didn't advertise it very well. And the only way we advertise really is through listservs for the community colleges and sitting in Coursera. Okay, that's the only way. Are there any questions about this so far? You guys are really quiet. I'm yakking a lot. No questions?
Isn't a major reason why you probably didn't have as many completion certificates is because there's no credit for the course and people are just trying to get
That's it. And you're going to see why. I have a graph that shows what they were trying to do. And this was what we ended up with. We ended up looking at something called patterns of persistence. Why are they taking the class, and what are they doing, and how are they finishing, and how many of them really care about completion? Many of them do not at all care about completion. They're there for a number of reasons, but completion is not one of them. What do you think the top reason is that they're there? I'll show you a chart about it in a bit, but what do you think? Why do you think people would take this class?
See how much they know.
To see how much they know might be a reason, not the top reason. What else?
That they needed some help in their writing.
They need help in writing. That's it. Really, that's all it is. We had 70% ESL. Okay, students from out of the country, 70%. We didn't expect that. I had an idea we'd have some ESL. I didn't expect it to be that much. Okay, what other reasons might you take a class like this? Well, if think about yourself right now, why would you take this class, or would you? How many of you would take a basic writing class? And why would you do it?
Brush up on my writing.
If you had something to write, like a dissertation maybe, and you hadn't had a writing class in a long time, would you take it? Probably. And a lot of people did. So there were a whole lot of people who were highly educated, hadn't really looked at their writing in a long time, that took it. There were also a lot of people who were doing this because their employer said, go do this. And those were a lot of the people from out of the country. Okay. There were also people who wanted to write novels. There were a bunch of people who were interested just in writing novels and poetry, and so people who were interested in being part of a writing community, we had those people as well. So let's go take a look at the class.
Some people do it just because they thought it could turn them into a writer?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. Quite a few, I think. And those were the people that were the ESL folks, pretty much. So I'm hoping we had the resolution here down, and I don't know what's going on with it now. Hopefully it'll be okay. This is the course itself, and I think you can see how it looks. We took everything we knew about online teaching and learning and put it into the design of this class. And you can go to the course if you're online right now by going to Coursera.org/course/basic writing. And then if you want to sign into it, I'll give you some credentials in just a second to do that. You need that again? I don't have anything to write with up here. It's Coursera.org/course/basic writing. And then are you guys there? Are you going there? Did you want to go there? Okay. Then the username, you want to sign in. Don't enroll, don't do anything, just sign in. And the username is patjamesother@gmail.com. I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this, or I would have had a slide or something for it. Okay, you got that? Yep. patjamesother@gmail.com. And the password is OTC13. Now you're going to be in the older version, which will look a little tiny bit different than this, but that'll give you a way to get in to take a look at the class while I'm looking at it up here. We decided that we wanted to use a unit model, which is what we use in our online classes for our college. We know that students need all the work that they're going to do in one location and not be bouncing around the whole course management system trying to find reading, writing, and all that kind of stuff. So we used our own style of doing distance ed in this design. And that was, I think, really critical to its success. I went to it was really interesting. I got to go to Philadelphia to the Coursera Partners Conference. I was the only community college person there. Okay. And I kept talking to people there, and they were from all over. And I kept saying, have you taught online before? Have you taught online before? None of them had taught online before. So here are all these professors, these rock star professors from all over the country who had never taught online before, which I thought was weird. I talked to there's a great course on sustainability out of U of I. And so I talked to the instructional designer there, and I said, you don't have people who teach online, right? And he goes, no, it's terrible. I had to teach him how to teach online, and he's taught online before. And he said that's really a problem, and he had to teach him how to teach online, but he's taught online before and designed online classes before. That's why their design is so good. You know, I went through and looked at all these courses. It was not good. You know, I was looking at it from my lens as a community college course designer, thinking students in a beginning class they would have a hard time, really hard time, because it wasn't clear where to start, what to do, how to go through the class. And we put in a unit. Unit 1 is about how to become a successful online learner. And yeah, I can't show you the whole thing here, darn. I can't even make the window smaller, sorry. But we had if you're there, there's a little picture on the side that's a woman just kind of going like this, and it says read everything, because that's really one of the things you need to do to be a good online student. So we had this whole unit about being a successful online learner, and some of the students griped about it, complained about it, and said, I know how to be an online student. You don't have to tell me how to do it. This unit was worth 50 points. The other units were all worth 100 points. It's not for credit, and points mean everything to students. It's unbelievable. They were insane about points. You know, I kept thinking, it's not for credit. Nobody's going to give you credit for this class. You know, I don't understand. But they were just, nuts about points. So one guy wrote this missive in the discussion forum about not wanting to do this unit. And students came in and said, if you'd spent as much time doing the unit as you spent on writing this, you would have been done. And other people said, I needed it even if you didn't. It was, and so what we found out was 45,000 students, 29,000 active. What are the discussion boards going to be like? Okay, they have a neat piece of voting up or down. So the students can vote posts up or down. All right, that guy got voted down very fast. When you get voted down, you end up at the bottom. Nobody reads your stuff. Nobody reads it at all. We read it, but nobody else reads it. One of the things, and so this is all happening right in the very beginning, and Larry, who is just, really the consummate professor, just amazing, cares about his students, just amazing guy. He's going, let's take that unit out. We need to take that unit out. And Lori and Ted and I are looking at him going, no, we're not taking it out. You have to have a thick skin. If you're teaching a class, an online class, any class, there's always one person in that class who's going to make you crazy, who you wish you could make go away somehow, who you spend time in the middle of the night trying to figure out how to make them go away. You usually come around to trying to help them. What I would usually do with those students, since I was teaching in a computer lab, was I made them drive the computer. That shut them up just about every time. In an online class, you always have one that's going to complain about everything. Everything. In an online class of 29,000 active students, that number is magnified. So you have a lot of students complaining. But on the whole, that's not the majority of them. I'd say maybe less than 1% of the students complained about anything. And as soon as they did, they were shut down really fast. And most people were amazingly appreciative. We got letters from people thanking us for the course, telling us this was the only way they could get any kind of education at all. Telling us they lived in countries where women can't get education and this was all that was available, and thank you. You start reading those things and it's life-changing. And Ted will tell you he felt that this experience changed his life. You know, yeah.
Are there written materials in English no matter where people access them from?
Yes, and actually Coursera has now translated them into Chinese. And so you can get this now if you're in China. And we have had a lot of students in this session from China. And they're translating all of their courses into Spanish. They've got a grant from someone, and I don't know who it is, to provide these courses in Mexico. And so they're translating all their courses into Spanish. So it's kind of, I'm trying to get my head around how do you teach English writing in Spanish, let alone I do it in Chinese, I'm trying to, but there must be a way to do it. I think probably what it is the video lectures are being transcribed. Okay. So, do you have any other questions about before I go any further about this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What other LMS have you taught with, and how did you find it in comparison to Coursera? Because it's your own platform, right?
Yeah, it is. And I've taught with Moodle, I've taught with Canvas, I've taught with Blackboard. And this, at first, I thought sucked.
You thought it sucked? No idea.
It was very frustrating because everything you see, like all the writing and the pictures and stuff that are in there, all of that stuff, we had to hand code. The only thing you don't code in is links, pretty much. That's about it. You have to hand code everything else in. There's no...
Type of HTML?
Yeah.
To get the breaks even?
Or XML, yeah, So it's all hand coded. So that was what Anna was doing. And I was remembering all my coding from years ago, and learning, going, oh yeah, I remember how to do. I can put a link in. I remember how to do that, And then I was using Dreamweaver, right? And you can't copy and paste the code in either because there's too much stuff in it. So and the platform doesn't accept all of that. So I would go into Dreamweaver and do something and then look at the code so that I'd remember what their code was. So I'd remind myself how to code because it'd been a really long time. But that's the piece that I'd say is the most difficult to deal with, is having to do that. They're trying to change it. One of the things that's really pretty cool about Coursera is they're very receptive to what you tell them. They've already changed how to edit the class and how to edit the pages. Those things have already changed from the first time we did it. It was a little bit harder to edit. You edited real time, so you're editing right on the server. So you're editing, and the changes are happening while you're editing, which is a little disconcerting if any of you have had to do that. And it's like, oh crap, I put that in the wrong place, and there it is. 29,000 people are seeing my coding showing up right there because I left something out or I didn't, do something right. Now they do. Now you have it previewed. So that's nice. They put a preview in, but it's still a clunky way to design, really clunky. Okay.
So is it more like any one of those other ones you've taught with, or it's just not really like any of them?
It's not really like any of them. They use wiki pages. Okay, so it's not a developed platform in the way that we know about Blackboard or we know about Moodle or something.
The menu on the left,
The menu's there. The menu is there. And let me show you. Do you guys want to see the platform right now before we go any further? I had a feeling. See, I told you, these guys would want to see the platform. So I'm in as an administrator. You don't see that from where you're sitting. But if I go to Section Manager, these are all of the pages that are in the course, and they're mostly wiki pages. Okay, the only things that aren't wiki pages are the videos. Okay, they do have a development system for putting the videos in, and they also have quizzes that are beautifully done. The quizzes run really well, and they can get data about all of the course, all of the clicks the students do, and so you can relate them to how well the students do. So where they go, what they see, what they do, you can relate to how well they do. The problem was in the beginning, and they're doing a little better with that now, I'll show that to you in a minute, but in the beginning the problem was it was all raw data. I don't know if that means anything to any of you. It's the thing that gives me nightmares. Okay? It's all raw data. So without having researchers at our college to take, there were no data tables, no data dictionary, nothing, okay? And so we're trying to make sense of all that. We ended up spending a lot of money getting people to do that. And we also hired a student out of University of Michigan that we paid in gift cards in order to do it, and we still didn't get everything that we wanted. So there's some things in there that are part of the platform and some things that are not. I can scroll down a little bit and show you what that looks like as it goes through. So you're just seeing kind of what these pieces are. And what you do is you add a piece and then you put it where you want it and then you publish it or you can edit it.
So it looks like a content management system. Is that what it's
Pretty much. Yeah, I'd liken it more to that.
Is it, did they build it on this like Google or something else?
I don't know. I think it's their own. I don't know that they built it on anything that was established. Okay, and they have a whole crew of, if you go there, a whole crew of programmers. Nobody's over the age of 25. Nobody. I gave a presentation there. It was a little spooky to be in that environment. And they were really interested in one of the things they said. It was inspiring because they don't hear this side of it. They don't hear, what goes on as a designer, as a teacher, as, someone actually working with students, particularly in a course that is inspirational, that really is a ground level course for people that gives them a key. A lot of students said, okay, now I can take online classes. I feel like I can take online classes. Or, okay, I can now write coherent sentences. And the goal of the course was to get them to write a paragraph with complex sentences in it. That was it, a paragraph. We're going to write a paragraph, complex sentences. And it really is a good goal, and it succeeds. And so people are really excited about it. Okay, so what else is here? There's asset administration, which is what you might think it would be. It's where you upload files. And if I look at some of those, here are the files that are in there, and then I have to add that link into the course link in order to get it into any of the material inside. So there's a asset administration section. And then there's a recording status for all your videos that you upload. And my first question, of course, was, who captions them? Do I have to caption all the videos? And they caption them for you. So that was really cool. We didn't have to worry about captioning the video. What we found out was it took them a couple of days. So we had to have our videos done. And we were building in the water because, the ship while it was in the water because I couldn't get my guys to move fast enough. And they were, they didn't get that we had an 8-month turnaround time from the time we got the money from Gates till we had to have completed the course. So we had to offer it. We got the money in December. We had Christmas in January, right? We come back in the middle of January. We had to have the class ready to go by May. Yeah, thank you for appreciating my pain. It was, and finally I just said to them, look, you're going to have the first unit done. Maybe the first 2 units done. I'll have the first unit done. You'll have the second one done. You got 2 weeks to come up with week 3, 4, and 5. And so it wasn't a good thing, but that's where we were. And we didn't quite know what we were doing, and so that's an issue too, is, you can't, I remember designing my first online class and not knowing what I was doing. And so the first unit was done, the second unit was half done, the class launched, and that was actually a good thing because even though I about killed myself, it was a good thing because I could adjust and adapt as I went along. So the following units were better. Right. And we made some changes in the course, too. You saw units there. If you're looking at the class now, you see weeks. We found out that weeks were not a good idea, that units were a better way of looking at it for a lot of reasons. Time is the time difference. When you have students who are in, Australia as opposed to students that are in California, as opposed to students that are in Britain, South America, when you set deadlines, you have to say Pacific time. Okay, now we found out in this one, you have to say Pacific time, daylight savings time. We found out that we had a whole bunch of people late turning things in because they were an hour off. And they, and the teacher said, well, we got to change the deadline. And I said, no, we don't. We need to say you've got to turn things in more than an hour in advance, which, by the way, I think it says somewhere in the How to Be a Successful Online Learner piece is not to do things at the last minute. So we're not going to go through because changing any of that kind of stuff is within the platform. So the quizzes and all the deadlines and all of that stuff are designed inside the platform. And so trying to change those with 29,000 people is a nightmare. So you can't. You just can't. You can send email. I'm not going to go. That's pretty simple. You can post announcements and send email. That's pretty normal. The setup, here's the nav bar you were asking about. And this is what it looks like. And you're not really missing anything over on the right. That's all there. So you can just go in and put in whatever you want, name it, and then link it. And so that's really easy. Teachers can do that. Okay, and my teachers now do that themselves. They can upload the assets. They can deal with the menu bars. There's quite a bit that they do themselves now. They edit the pages. They still don't do HTML coding, so they'll put in an announcement, want me to make the announcement look better, and I'll go in and do that. Anna's not working on it anymore. She's too busy with that one right now, so she doesn't have time. So I'm with taking care of that kind of stuff. Does that answer your question a little bit about how all this works? Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to see here? Let me show you this. Let's see. Here are the data tools that were not there in the beginning. We can now get overview statistics and a bunch of other stuff that we could not get in the beginning. I know that's pretty small, but we now have access to data in ways that are a little bit easier to deal with that we didn't have when we first started. And that is a result of our discussions with Coursera, not just us, but other people too. So this is the current course. There's 30,000 registered. There's 22,000 that have accessed it. And there are 4,752 that have accessed it in the last week. This is the last week of the class. Intentions to work, they did a little survey about, what was your intention to work in the course, and they do that survey before you log on. And you can see that some of the people have less than half is what they're thinking of doing, or none. 6,887 said that they were going to do half or more. 11,000 said that they would do all of it. So that's an interesting thing that we've noticed they've added in. That was the data that we wanted. Those were the things that we were looking at.
Why would someone sign up for the course and then say, I don't want to work?
I do it. I go into courses and say that. I want them to know that my intention is to take a look at their class and see. I want to see if it's something my students can use. I want to see if it's got a good design. Right now, I'm headed for... are you guys going to edit this video? Okay. Afterwards, I'll tell you where I'm going. That's a good idea. Am I off camera for a minute?
No, camera.
Great. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to speak to the legislators staffers in April about this class and about MOOCs and about distance ed in general. And it's the high-level staffers, and it's with the Post-Secondary Policy Institute. And so I'm really kind of excited about talking to them about this kind of stuff. So I've been in the course looking for good classes because they want me to put them into a class so they can experience being in a class. Ours will be closed so that they can't use ours. So I'm trying to find classes. So I'll go in and just say, I'm not planning to do any of the work. Yep. We call those people workers, which is really not a good term. We like a different word, but that's what we call them. We have disengaged, we have lurkers, we have engaged, we have, I can't remember what the other one is. I'll look at it, but my researchers are looking at how to categorize. So we have lurkers. So I'm a lurker. That doesn't sound right. I'm glad I didn't say that fully on. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's see. Where am I? You probably want to know about the user administration and what you can get. And this is what it looks like. So I can search for somebody. I can search for their email address, and I can get a lot of information. And those are the roles up there. There are a bunch of roles that you can put them into. That's part of the platform as well. Does it matter a whole lot? If you can sign in with if you can sign in as Pat James Other, does it matter a whole lot? I mean, you know, there are a lot of unanswered questions here about who these students are and if they can log in again. And we're starting to find some plagiarism, and we're kicking people out for that. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because they can just log back in as somebody else if they want to. And they sign an honor code saying they won't. Big whoop. You know, like that's going to keep them from doing it. You know, a lot of questions need to be answered. Some of the universities are doing what's called a signature program, which is they are really trying to identify, Coursera that is trying to identify who the student is. You take a picture with your ID, and then they do keyboard analysis to see that you're the person typing all the time. So I don't know how well that's going to work. You do know that in the Higher Education Opportunities Act is in the process of being reviewed and revised, and probably we're going to have something put on us as distance ed people that's going to say we have to do some kind of authentication other than just saying, yeah, they are the person. You know, right now we do authentication through our course management system. My guess is that's going to change. I'm not sure how yet that's going to change, but my guess is that that's going to change. It's in the rules committee right now, and I'd be watching the WCET blogs for Russ Poland's work on this kind of policy and keep on top of it. The other thing you have to watch right now for distance ed through that is the state authorization. That we are required to make sure that if we are offering distance ed classes and students are taking it from out of state and they're not living here, we're required to make sure that we have contacted that state and find out if we have to pay them anything. Now, for IT people, that's important, okay? Particularly because you're going to be the ones that have to find those students. Who are the students taking only online classes who aren't in California?
What do you mean you have to pay them?
We have to pay the state. Good question. I know, it's regulatory. They think we're doing business in their state. Yeah, it's a reaction to the privates. It's a reaction to, you know, University of Phoenix and others who actually market to students out of state. And so students are taking their courses and they're running a business somewhere else. The state's not getting any tax dollars from that. There's other issues too, and one of the big ones is that you have to have a place where the student can complain. So that's another piece. There's a whole bunch of stuff about that. The compliance issues for DE right now are really weird, and if you follow the money, you'll be able to figure them out. It's mostly about financial aid fraud. This one is a little bit different.
How much money do you get to pay the state to teach their students?
It depends. It depends. Some states have reciprocity and you don't have to pay anything. Other states want, I think one state wants $9,000.
Per student?
No, just in general. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. Yeah, good question. So people aren't teaching out-of-state students from Massachusetts right now.
Really? That's what
Okay, so I want to show you a video. Now, why was it okay before and now it's not? I don't know.
Prepositions in them. All right? So with this first one we have here, I found the hammer behind the toolbox. In this sentence, behind, because it shows location. All right? And so we have another one. The players stayed on the field in spite of the weather. On shows us again their position. In spite of, now that's a three-word preposition. And you'll find as you study prepositions that you have 1, 2, 3, and sometimes even 4-word prepositions. So in spite of is our preposition here.
And we did find the hammer, right?
Yes, we did. It's right here. Right where we expected it.
Behind the toolbox, we found it. All right, conjunctions, as their name implies, are words that join words, phrases, and clauses. For the time being, all you need to do is familiarize yourself with 4 different categories of conjunctions because we'll be developing these in later units. The 4 different types are coordinating conjunctions,
How many do you
relative conjunctions, adverbial conjunctions, and my personal favorite, subordinate conjunctions. You'll learn much more about these in the subsequent units, about each of these. And coordinating conjunctions.
Okay, so they do. Our students are saying things like, look at that, they're so cute, they have their wedding rings on. What's that about? We don't know what that about. One student we ran into at a conference told us, she said, when did that woman come in there? Because they started putting Lori in some of the videos later on. When did that woman come in there? And I had my guys, and now this woman is in the picture. I mean, there's just this weird stuff that goes on. But these guys have chemistry, and Larry didn't want to be in the videos. And we were saying, oh, no, you don't get to step out of the videos. We need you in the videos. And that piece of him laughing, where he's like, that kind of laughing, was put in. That wasn't right at that moment. Our videographers were brilliant as far as, pulling in some of this really human stuff that because like I said, paint dry, right? So pulling in that stuff. And then you saw that we could do overlays, and we did some of the overlays in there. But there's this neat thing.
Types of conjunctions.
That's part of the platform. That you can't really see it very well. I'm sorry, it's just not coming up in the resolution here. But there are questions inside the videos, and so the students can answer the questions, and then they're just for their own use. You don't get a score on those, and then there's a place where you can put in why the answer was right or not. Okay, so that's immediate feedback. It's right in the middle of the video. You can stop and check for understanding. They can check to see that they got it. They can play them over and over and over again. All the videos are downloadable, and all the transcripts too. So they're not on YouTube. They're heavily produced videos. We found that we couldn't do them too long because they got really large and students couldn't download them because they have issues all over the world with some of this. So we had high quality and low quality so that people could use whatever they wanted. We also used YouTube videos. Oh, come on. Like this one.
All right, hello everybody. We've got a special treat.
And then we uploaded them into the platform.
To say our best.
We also kept them on YouTube so we could get comments on them, which was cool.
Thanks again, everybody.
Should have monetized them.
Such good work and dedication throughout the class. I know we've had a few bumps in the road, but I think everything's running smoothly. So everybody's here, the whole team except for the TAs, and there are a few other people who are either out of state or on our other campus that couldn't be here today, but
it's running real slow.
This is the group. You can see what went into the whole effort of producing this class. And
it's running really slow for some reason.
You were a part of it.
1 minute? 5 minutes.
It's been fun, it's been hard work, but it's been immensely enjoyable. We hope you had a good time.
Oh, God, it's so slow.
Do well in the future.
Oh, here we go.
And if we all look tired, it's because we are. We're pretty sure you are too. It's fun reading your discussion board post.
Now it's too fast.
This is Lori.
On my left shoulder there.
And then this is Tom right over here. I don't know if you can see him. There we go. That's Tom, and then Jerome is on the other side. And those are our videographers that brought you the really gorgeous video of the lectures that Ted and Larry did.
They made us look good.
Thank you, Tom and Jerome. Couldn't have done it
And
without
then this is Anna right here, and Anna and Corinne were the ones that were doing all the technical work, making sure that things were in or we'd left them out.
I only have 3 minutes left. I can speed it up. No, I'm kidding.
Early in the morning and frantically saying, it's not working, or this isn't there, or whatever. It's normal for when you do a class for the first time, so we appreciate your patience and all your comments and your kind words.
And thanks to Pat James. She's in there in the back kind of narrating us, and she was the creation of the whole project, the initial.
Okay, that's good enough. But you can see that we have a bunch of, oh, I know why this is happening like this. We have a lot of things in it that are really human and really normal and really allow students to get that we are real people. We kept hearing that over and over and over again, that we were real, you know. And as a matter of fact, that's how I got involved with what I'm going to be doing in April. Is Columbia University got in touch with us and wanted our information about the course, and the woman who was doing the research said, you guys are doing a real course for real students who have real needs. And that was, you know, that was really high praise. Someone asked me why I do this. And the reason I got involved was because I don't want to live in a world where people don't know anything, with a bunch of ignorant people. I really don't. I want to live in a world where people can look things up, can read, can write, can communicate. If someone tells them global warming doesn't exist, I want them to be able to go look it up for themselves and make their own decisions. So I think that as a public institution, that's maybe not, mission is not to educate the world. I think that as individuals in the society, our planet might depend on it. So that's why I'm involved. There was a lot more. As a matter of fact, if you go to the slides that are at the tiny URL in the beginning, I hope somebody took down, and I'll make sure that they get posted here, right? We can post them here so you have it. Or you can email me and I'll send you the information of the rest of the slides, because there's a lot of data there that you might want to see. We had 166 countries involved in our first one. It was pretty stunning. One student came in and said, I think I'm the youngest, I'm 13. Another one came in and said, no, I'm 11. And another one came in and said, well, I'm 72. And the 13-year-old came back in and said, learning knows no age. Got me right there. So anything else you need to know, I'll be happy to answer. Any questions, I'll be around for a while. So I think that's it. Did you guys get what you needed? I think so. Faculty. The faculty didn't have problems. We solved them for them. And our culture of our college was very accepting. We were doing something for our students. And the students who completed from our college, just a handful. We now have 900 students from the California colleges, not all community colleges. Not all need to reassess. Some of them are refreshing in classes that have no prerequisites. But out of the handful of students who've come back and assessed, they've all assessed into college level English, from the bottom into. So hopefully we're checking to see how well they do. So that's it, I think. My time's up, I know.